What's up, YouTube? Yeah. Supercell, you've messed up. Where do I even begin? From the absolutely ridiculously broken tower troops, not one, but two now, to, just the single worst meta. I can't even believe how bad the meta is right now. I never thought the evolutions would get to a point where they're just so broken that it's corrupted like the game, almost. It's nuts. And just the cherry on top for us HOG players, building NATO being very, very common, the two most meta decks being Minor Poison and, more importantly, Drill Cycle, to just complete, hard counters. Yeah, it's rough, boys, it's rough. So, I don't know, I guess in this video I'm going to try and share some strategies that I've come up with over the course of this season, to help you still be able to win with HOG even in this absolutely trash meta. So, okay, the first thing is you gotta know what you're up against. When you're playing against the Dagger Duchess, you've just got to know you're not gonna get damage in single. At least with your HOG Rider, it's just not gonna happen. You can try going Knight HOG at the bridge or for something crazy, but just gotta accept it's not gonna happen. And okay, one thing you know about the Dagger Duchess is that she gets weaker the longer the game goes on, right? In double elixir, she's worse than in single, and in triple, she's even worse, right? So you've got to play the long game. You got to know that you got to be really solid in your games and just make sure that you're not taking damage in single and you're just playing really clean. And you got to wait for your opportunity. In single elixir, it's too hard. The Dagger Duchess is way too broken, and there is just zero outplay potential, which is why it's so broken. That there is nothing you can do in single elixir against the Dagger Duchess. So I know this kind of goes against all the classical HOG advice that you're meant to get your damage in single and then slowly chip them out for the rest of the game and win, and that is historically how you meant to play HOG decks in general, but that is no longer the case. You just got to be really solid, identify their deck, try and, not take really any damage, or at least as little damage as possible, and then, and then go in. But yeah, that's the first tip, is just know that you're not going to get damage in single. And that will already set you up. I've already tried going Ice Golem HOG, Knight HOG at the bridge. I've tried going for all these crazy plays and things. They just don't work. They just don't work. Simple as that. My second tip is going to be that you're going to get a lot less opportunities now to actually punish your opponent. You basically, all of single is just free for them. They can do whatever they want. They could play like a monkey and still win in single elixir. But once it hits double and triple, when they start, mistakes start creeping in, when that mistake comes, you need to punish like hell. So you've got to be aware of what those mistakes are and how to identify them. But when you see a mistake, maybe they've overcommitted elixir, maybe they've cycled a card they shouldn't have cycled, yeah, go all in. Okay, that's general advice. Go in and fully punish. You need to get the most out of every punishing play that you do, because you're not going to get as many chances as you would have before. There's usually only a couple mistakes, one or two big mistakes that somebody will make in a game, and when you identify it, you need to get your damage right there, right then. That's tip number 2, is when you get that opportunity, make the most of it. Number 3 is quite generic, but it's mattered now more than ever, is to have really good interaction knowledge and make sure you're defending as flawlessly as you can. If you're lucky enough to have Cannoneer or Dagger Duchess yourself, then learning interactions with these new tower troops can also help you out. But even if you're just using the Princess Tower like most people, then just making sure you have really, really, really clean interactions, and just you're getting the most out of your elixir and the most out of your cards, because like I said, you're not going to get that many opportunities, so you kind of need to make them yourself. You need to, by having really good interaction knowledge, making sure you're getting those positive elixir trades, and cycling the least amount of elixir you have to on defense. That will help you the most then, to help you really punish them when you're going on offense. So actually, I just posted a video, an interaction video. I'll link it at the top if you guys want to see some pretty high level interactions you guys can learn. But yeah, that's tip number 3, is make sure interaction knowledge is up to date and you're practicing your interactions and you've got them down. Number 4 is maybe not that surprising, but it's a strategy that's been around, but it works better now than it ever has. Okay, not even against anything, against specifically the Dagger Duchess, and that's going hog in the back. Hog in the back, especially in double and triple, is actually a really effective way of trying to overwhelm your opponents. Now, of course, it does very much depend on the decks you're playing. If you're playing one of those decks where, you're just feeding them elixir, like if you go hog in the back against like elixir golem, you're just going to lose because they're just going to go e-golem in the back, cycle some cards, take a little bit of damage from your hog, and then just punish you like crazy. But usually in cycle matchups, so against cycle decks, minor poison and these kinds of things, where the opponent doesn't build up massive pushes, going hog in the back to overwhelm the Dagger Duchess is actually really strong, because you can go hog in the back, you can knight in front of it, and then whilst you're cycling all your cards and whilst they're dealing with it, you can then get another hog down immediately. And now, the Dagger Duchess is spent, she has no more daggers left, and you can sometimes get your hog to the tower. And especially the lower down you are, it's not even really low down, even high up it's worked quite a lot, but it's a more effective strategy than it used to be, just because of the fact that the Dagger Duchess is in the game. And again, this is something you only want to do later in the game. You can't be doing this earlier on, because you're not going to be able to even cycle 2 hogs without spending every single bit of your elixir, which you will need for some defense. So that's my 4th tip, is that hog in the back is actually good, and it's not like a meme play anymore. It's very viable. And then my 5th tip is going to be spell cycling more, because there are going to be some matchups that, before you used to be able to get your hogs through occasionally, and you can kind of squeak through a win, and now it's just not possible. And so if your hog is no longer your win condition, because getting your hog to the bridge is like impossible, then you've got to use your spells. Spells are your only guaranteed way of damage. So EQ cycling more if you're playing like 2.6 or something, then Fireball cycling more. That's going to be a strategy that you're going to have to use, that once you've defended as flawlessly as you can, you then just throw an Earthquake or you throw a Fireball or whatever it is. And making sure that, you're not getting too far down in damage. Double Elixir is usually the hardest, because in triple you can kind of get some damage. In single there's nothing you can do, but in double, that's where you kind of need to make the most of it. You don't want to get too far behind in damage. And I don't know, you've just got to really pay attention to how you're going about playing double, in the sense that you can't be like too aggressive earlier on in double and then just take a bunch of damage, because you also need to set yourself up for triple elixir. When triple elixir comes, you have 1 minute, right? You don't have forever, and you have 1 minute to make it count. So you've got to really pay attention to how you're cycling cards in double to set yourself up for triple. And if you're just playing in a matchup where it's impossible to get damage, and there are quite a few, at least that I've played, that it just feels like your hog against Dagger Duchess, it will just never get to the tower. They're running like a building NATO deck and with like, some fast cycle. In those kind of instances, you've just got to Earthquake cycle. You've got to take your Firecracker chip damage when you can. Now more than ever, it's so important to be able to keep track of cycle, and to some extent elixir, but more importantly is keeping track of their cycle. Because if you know what their cycle is, then you can go for those Firecrackers at the bridge and like all these kinds of plays. So those are my general tips. Hopefully they've helped. I've been showing some gameplay in the back of me playing Ian's deck. If you guys are wondering what like viable hog decks are, I'll probably be making a tier list soon, so you guys can know what are the best hog decks to play, because it's kind of changed up a bit. A lot of the classical hog decks are not so good. Like, I want to be honest, disclaimer, 2.6 sucks. Hog EQ is a bit better, but 2.6 is like kind of unplayable at top ladder. It's just not a thing. Maybe there'll be new strategies that come about, and it's still early days. People haven't really figured out the Dagger Duchess yet. But I don't know, as for now it feels very impossible, I'll say that. But yeah, I mean, you guys gotta keep a positive mindset. I was very negative for a few days. I apologize for not uploading. I don't know, it just feels like Supercell just shafted all of us HOG players for no reason. Like this Dagger Duchess, you know, you either spend 40 bucks or you're just out of the season, it feels like. But where there's a will, there's a way, you know. 2.6 and HOG EQ, they've been around for ages, so they'll live on. They'll live on, I'm sure. Just gotta find a way to make it work. But yeah, best of luck guys with your pushing, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.